It's so easy to marginalize and trivialize this enormous amount of black criminality in this country. It's so easy to turn it into a set of numbers, a set of pat phrases about minor injuries, expected to recover, look on the bright side. It's never happened around here before. Well, we don't play that game on this channel. We like to talk about real stories with real people. Then we like to show how people use the numbers, they use the catchphrases to ignore, deny, condone, excuse, encourage, and even lie about this incredible level of black mob violence and black criminality all over the country. So on this podcast, we're going to listen to some 911 calls. We're going to listen, I just went into my computer and grabbed some 911 calls of what it sounds like in person. Hi, this is Colin Flaherty. I'm the author of Don't Make the Black Kids Angry. Here we talk about black mob violence, black on white crime, and how it's wildly out of proportion. Not just black on white, black on old, black on young, black on gay, black on straight, black on Asian, black on Amish, black on Eskimo, black on kitties, puppies, and turtles. Now, so many reporters and public officials and other people are in denial, deceit, and delusion about it. That's what we expose on this channel. That's what we expose in these videos and on this podcast. I'm glad you're here. Why don't we start out with I don't know if it's the worst one. It's one of the most dramatic ones. A couple of reporters running around down in Virginia. They're driving through the hood for some stupid reason or another. And then this happens.
Okay, what's going on at church in Brambleton? Okay, they're beating him up. Ma'am, is somebody with you?
Are you okay?
Ma'am, can you put somebody around you on the phone?
I was stopped at a light. Somebody threw something in my car. I stepped out and said something, and then about 10 guys came over and jumped me.
There was a bunch of kids beating on this one man. It might have been 10 or 15 kids. I don't know. But it's a white male. I'm telling you, it's a white male. I hope y'all hurry up. And this guy's okay.
I don't know what happened to the guy, but there was a lot of guys, people, black kids, kicking on a guy.
It took 3 weeks for the local newspapers to report the violence against their own reporters. And to Bill Riley and Jesse Waters' eternal credit, they stayed on the story. Bill sent Jesse down to Virginia to talk to the editor of the paper, and they said, "Why didn't you do anything on your own reporters being attacked?" And he said, "Well, harumph. There's no evidence. Harumph. These attacks were harumph. Racially motivated." Okay. So the editor is saying that 25 to 50 black people just kind of congregated by coincidence and they attacked those two white people. It was all just one big coincidence. You know, to be the editor of a small town paper, a mid-market paper, basically means you have trouble balancing your own checkbook. And all of a sudden he's sitting there waxing about what is random, what is coincidence, what is evidence. Why don't we move on out to Cleveland? I know I've heard this so many times. To me it sounds kind of comical now. Cleveland, a black member of the Cleveland City Council, is quite unhappy with the fellas who are rampaging outside of his house.
I'm sorry, y'all gotta listen to this shit, man.
Cleveland Police, Dispatch
I need the police over here immediately. People need to go to jail tonight.
Where at, sir?
13615 Kelso.
Okay, what's going on?
I just got about 100 sorry black kids out here acting a fool. I'm Cleveland Councilman Eugene Miller in front of my damn house, and I'm sick of this shit.
Okay, you said about 100 people out there?
Yes.
And what are they doing?
Man, just get the fucking police over here, okay?
What's your name, sir?
Cleveland Councilman Eugene Miller. I don't give a damn it's being recorded. I said, nobody has to live through this shit.
Sir, the police are on the way. I don't know why you're...
No, why? Because you don't have to live through this shit.
What's your phone number?
You don't worry about my damn number. I'm sick of this shit. You your damn job.
The police are on the way.
Here's somebody reporting a little bit of argy-bargy. Good old Cincinnati. Oh, yeah, we're going to hear more from Cincinnati in a minute.
Yeah, because you got a party down here on 9th Street. Just black kids down here. There's black kids down here beating on white people. This is not right, man.
To some who called 911, the race factor was obvious.
It's about 20 young black kids. They just sitting out here looking for trouble, basically. Beating up on white guys.
11 victims filed police reports saying they were kicked, punched, or stomped by a group of black teenagers.
For those of you with keen ears for regional accents, you won't need me to tell you where this took place. It's Wisconsin for the rest of you. The Wisconsin State Fair in Milwaukee. Large group of black people rioting in the fair, outside of the fair, attacking people in the fair, outside of the fair, pulling people out of their cars, punching old ladies in the face. Here's some of the 911 calls from that little, what should we call it? Uprising?
Black dudes, that's it. Jump me. I'm bleeding all over it.
There's a black on white fight in the middle of the street.
We saw black guys get out of a car with a gun, and they're going around jumping people. We need some cops out here.
This one's a couple years old, and it happened on Memorial Day in Chicago. I think they call it North Beach in Chicago. Memorial Day, hundreds and hundreds of black people were down there attacking people on the beach, knocking people off motorcycles, creating enormous amounts of violence, mayhem, destruction, defiance, destroying property. It got so bad they had to close the beach. Next day, the Rahm Emanuel and his newly appointed but yet to be confirmed police commissioner, McCarthy, they get out there and say, no, we haven't heard it. No, we just closed the beach because it was too hot. That's all. It was a public safety thing. It was way too hot on the beach. We had to close that beach for health reasons. No other beach was closed in America on that day. No other beach in Chicago was closed on that day. Pretty soon, WLS in Chicago started grabbing all the 911 calls. People in Chicago were pissed that when it was happening, and they were very explicit about what was happening.
Yes, there's a fight breaking out on the beach because there's nothing but animals covering this beach today. You can't even walk along the bike path or ride along the bike path. There's no crowd control. What the hell is going on?
Chicago police had...
You know, Rahm Emanuel and the chief of police, they had a press conference about something else when people were asking about this riot on the beach. And Rahm looked into the camera and the chief looked into the camera and said, what are you talking about? We haven't heard anything about that. So when I talk about denial, deceit, and delusion, you know what we're talking about. Elected officials and their appointed police commissioners lie about black criminality. Of course, the same chief of police commissioner, a few weeks later, he goes on a black radio station and they talk about violence on the streets and what causes it, what he's going to do about it. And the chief did his little history lesson. Reminded everybody, well, it started with the Pilgrims. Because everybody knows black people are relentless victims of relentless white racism all the time, everywhere. That explains everything, especially why white people are always picking on black people on Chicago beaches. The Pilgrims did it. Here's a little bit of video from good old, a little bit of audio from Charlotte.
Sir, how many people?
It's at least 200 people.
That are fighting?
Yes. He has a sword and an axe.
Why don't we head down to Baltimore? This might be the most despicable, most deplorable audio we're going to listen to. You're going to listen to audio of police cries for help when police were fighting the rioters. And the video on this, lots of videos on this on my channel and other places, and in my books, lots of videos on this. But you're going to hear the audio, what it sounds like when police are desperately crying for backup, for equipment, for help, desperately trying to talk about what's happening on the streets, an enormous amount of danger that eventually put 150 cops in the hospital. 150 cops in the hospital. Today, the mayor and city officials are looking around going, man, I wonder, how did crime ever get so out of control in our town? Let's listen to a little bit of that.
Of chaos, WJZ has poured through hours of just released radio transmissions. They show just how bad conditions were for police as they tried to take control during the April riots. WJZ investigator Mike Halgren's live at Penn North, the center of that unrest, with what he found. Mike?
Mary, on these recordings, we did not hear any direct stand-down orders, although we did hear orders not to chase the rioters. What is clear is that police were frustrated by the lack of resources.
Large group of juveniles gathered at the location causing a disturbance. We got our hands full right now.
WJZ reviewed more than a dozen hours of newly released recordings from the April 27th Baltimore riots.
Oh my gosh, look at that tear gas!
And they paint a revealing picture of a city slowly turning out of control.
Attention all units. I need all available northern units at Swan Drive and Gwen Falls with your right here.
We're getting what's going on.
Signal 13, Liberty Heights and Rice's Town.
We got hit with the bricks. We're going to stand right here. I can't leave these officers here by themselves.
A frustrated, ill-equipped police force struggled, even though the mayor and police deny claims they were ordered to stand down.
It wasn't until there was a controversy around the stand-down order that I even knew what the stand-down order was.
Here's what police said on the radio.
Hold the line. Do not go forward and do not chase them. We're sitting up here and there's a couple hundred people here.
I am not going to let my guys get hurt because we have equipment we're not using. Somebody give me some type of fucking thing.
The police union says in some cases officers had to get approval simply to make arrests, and some had to buy their own safety gear.
Let's go, y'all. We got an officer down at the location, Pennsylvania North. Let's go. Use caution. You have to do.
More than 150 officers were injured that day, and the city has yet to provide a full public accounting of what went wrong.
This is everyone. If you got something, drop it. Get over here. Get your right here. Make sure you're prepared for this.
You all know what to do. Protect yourselves and protect each other.
And you are looking live at the burned-out shell of the CVS that still sits here at Pennsylvania and North Avenues. An illustration of just how bad things got. Police had to be rescued by an armored vehicle here on April 27th. Reporting live at Penn North, Mike Halgren, WJZ Eyewitness News.
Mike, thank you. Ultimately, the commissioner lost his job as the department has also struggled to respond to the wave of violence that followed the unrest.
We just block off traffic at Fulton and Ricestown. Cars are still coming up and they're throwing rocks at cars at Ricestown and Gwen Falls.
All right, 800 to Fox. It's coming back towards the mobile metro station. I have no units at the mall.
All right, operations, we need to link PG County up with our officers. Let's get them on the line and let's start extracting and making arrests. 10-4.
Fox, you have more shields coming up here. You got units you could use, but we don't have any shields on.
10-4, they're en route right now.
All right, they might want to hurry. Yeah, Fox, they're throwing rocks at the bus that you turn on the Gwen Falls, too.
All right, 800 to 600. I need that battalion coming my way. 800 to 600. I'm open over here on this bridge on the second level.
All right, the troops are pushing their way back northbound on Ricestown, back up to the metro.
600, I'm direct. Those units that are coming up to support, please respond to the rear, the Gwen Falls side of the One Diamond Mall.
Fox, if you got pepper foggers or anything like that, now would be a good time. All the units in the line are getting bombarded with stuff now.
We need shields down here. We're getting creamed. We need help down here at Gwen Falls. Gwen Falls is the last
600. I'm about to deploy the units with the pepper ball guns. We're getting destroyed over here with these rocks and stuff. I'm about to deploy them.
All right, good. Deploy it now. You got to start this crowd down.
Let's start spraying them with the pepper foggers. We have PG County, Montgomery County's on their way. Start spraying them. 10-4.
Fox, all right, you're running them off, but you're leaving your cars, and the 4 officers by themselves with the cars, and they're flanking around to your left, some of them.
3421, we got an officer down in front of Montgomery, and there's a supervisor with him, so we got that medic on here. Have him come back and get that officer. All right, 35, so that's got hit. That was a brick. I got glass in my eye. I'm down on the side of the mall. We could use PG County up here by Woodbrook. Any police vehicle that comes up Richardstown Road northbound and westbound is getting pelted by rocks. So you're going to have to loop around and come down. Come on, we're on the heavy attack. I need that ball. Let's go. Let's go. I need the tank at Woodbrook and Westbury. Woodbrook and Westbury. Woodbrook and Westbury.
Operations, we need to get one of our Bearcats with gas to Westbury and Woodbrook. 10-4, get gas up there.
Westbury and Woodbrook, we are under significant assault. We are under significant assault.
More new city surveillance camera video WJZ obtained, along with recordings of police radio transmissions, showed just how desperate things got for officers during the April 27th riot.
That got hit. That was a brick. I got glass in my eye. I'm down on the side of the mall.
We have one female officer entered at the modest. She sustained head injury and is in and out of consciousness.
We have injured officers. We need to get them out of here.
You need to send everybody you got.
The recordings also reveal police on the front lines did not have the equipment they needed.
Officers are down! Can we have the mace? It's a female! I'm about to deploy the units with the pepper ball gun. We're getting destroyed over here with these rocks and stuff. Crews can play on well, and we got no steel. Do you think we can get somebody down here?
It would be some 6 hours before the mayor and city officials even made a public address.
The curfew, citywide, 10 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Young people kept streaming into the area that day. Not only would schools refuse to cancel classes, but also the transportation hub here at Mondawmin kept humming.
Can you call MTA and tell them the east route coming to Mondawmin, they're still coming down, unloading kids that are joining this crowd.
New video from North and Pennsylvania avenues shows people setting fires and destroying a police car. In the audio, you can hear the struggle to free several officers who became trapped.
We need extraction for some of these people. Any officer in this area, come pick up some of these MTA officers. We can't fit them in the Bearcat.
The police union has described the response as a failure from top to bottom.
Hold that line. Do not advance. Hold the line. We need shields down here. We're getting creamed.
And as young people, our time is now.
We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. I never said, nor would I ever say, that we are giving people space to destroy our city. So my words should not be twisted. It is very unfortunate that members of your industry decided to mischaracterize my words and try to use it as a way to say that we're inciting violence. There's no such thing.
This isn't quite a 911 call, but it's the most ridiculous piece of audio in my computer, bar none. It's Melissa Harris Perry. She was the former MSNBC Golden Girl. She's a big professor of something having to do with black people. She was I think now she's at Wake Forest. After she moved over there, I think after she got fired from MSNBC. She was quite unhappy that MSNBC was not making her the center of all their 2016 election coverage. So she raised the stink, and I think they said, well, you know what? Goodbye. Anyway, they were talking about violence against women in Arab countries, in Egypt, and they had this reporter who's usually very liberal, very reliably liberal, coming in saying, oh yeah, I was injured, I was assaulted during the Arab Spring on the streets of Cairo. And this is something that exists all throughout that part of the world. This unreported violence against women. So Melissa Harris Perry chimes in with her observation about what happens when black men rape and brutalize black women in America.
I start with a little bit of trepidation in this conversation, in part because I know that some of the critiques of this is the very idea that Western press, that those who are not from these nations, who are not Muslim ourselves, who are not part of these traditions, can look at your article and say, look at how horrible those men or those societies or that religion is. And it's something, it's part of why, for example, we have an underreporting of rape and domestic violence in African American communities, because we know the violence enacted on black men by police, so we often don't call.
Why don't we head down to Louisville, Kentucky, where hundreds and hundreds of black people rampaged through the streets of downtown Louisville, starting at this little bridge they have down there, kind of a converted rails to trails kind of thing. They moved through the park, they moved through the downtown, beating old people, beating grandparents in front of their children, beating young couples, destroying property, looting stores. Within 24 hours, of course, next 24 hours, it was all the police chief and the mayor looking at it, telling us a series of increasingly ridiculous lies. One, it didn't happen. Well, maybe a little something happened, but it never happened before. Well, maybe something happened. Maybe it happened before, but that was a long time ago. Well, maybe something happened, and maybe it was a little bigger than we originally thought. Then somebody released a memo from inside the police department that say, oh yeah, this has been happening in this town for a long time. Lots of anger on the streets, lots of people ready to do some bad business. It happened. And they just kept lying and lying and lying and lying about it. Then these calls came out, which gave us some detail about exactly what people were finding on the streets.
I am on the Big 4 walking bridge right now.
Yes, ma'am.
And there was a bunch of black kids that walked by and hit an older white man, and he was actually on the ground. There's a whole group of them of like 20 people.
Oh, and they're all together?
Yeah, that was the black people.
20 black male juveniles?
Probably. Some of them are women.
Black male and female juveniles? Black female juveniles. And they hit an old man?
I mean, there's a big group of them. They're all cheering. They're all excited about it.
And he was like elderly?
We're on the walking bridge, and a group of white guys just walked down the street or walking down the walking bridge, and they just punched this guy in the face for no reason and just walked away.
I need somebody now because I just got jumped by about 10 guys.
Okay. Do you need an ambulance?
I don't, but they robbed me too, so.
They robbed you? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, stand in line here with me.
So they hit me in the back of the head, I'm bleeding.
He's hurting.
Okay, can you ask?
Why did they do that?
Okay, did you see any clothing descriptions of the subject?
I can see them right now. I got blue jeans and black hoodies.
Okay, all of them?
Yep.
And we're here for a cheerleading convention. And right across the street from our hotel at the bus stop in front of the pawn shop that's there, across from the Fairfield Inn, there's a big group of black guys. We're here for a cheerleading convention at the convention center.
Yes, you've mentioned that.
And there's several, cheerleaders walking from the convention center to their hotels by themselves, ages ranging from 13 to 17 by themselves. And we've witnessed 3 times of these black boys over here that are just kind of standing around yelling and screaming and, snatching at their butts and stuff. Like earlier, they went to grab these girls' butts, and the girls ran from them, and they chased after them, and then they came back and stood there again.
Down here by the Big 4 Bridge, you have a gang of children acting like a pack of wild dogs. They are terrorizing folks in the park, beating them up, jumping them.
So the boys are starting to fight, and the one that got beat up pulled out a gun and took off running. We just was walking, and then some dude just went up to a boy and just punched him in the face. There was a big group of people, and they just came up to us and hit one of my friends and stole his wallet and his phone. And then I went over there to get them off of them, and they punched me in the face and kicked me.
Okay. Are they white, black, Hispanic?
They're black.
And my friend, he was punched and knocked out.
Is this the Big 4 Bridge?
It's the one in the middle.
Until contact.
Yeah, they stole his phone. They stole his wallet.
Oh, you mean this is yours?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the boy that's with me. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, and I guess they went up there and attacked another kid at the Kennedy Bridge, because that's where I'm sending EMS right now.
I don't know if you've already gotten calls or not, but there's several hundred teenagers, and
messing with people at the traffic lights and cussing at them, spitting at them, running out in the middle of the street. I'm surprised none of them got hit yet.
First in Liberty, these fucking kids, 30 kids, running down the street, just fucking hit my car with rocks. Then they just punched me, and I'm bleeding everywhere. Hold on.
Okay. Sam, is the police there?
Yeah, they're here.
They're there?
Yeah.
Okay. Talk to them.
There's a mob of kids. They just fought this dude in the middle of the street and like broke his front car window.
1 second. How many of them are there?
There is like 50 of them. They threw a garbage can at a car and they like jumped on the hood, kicked the window in and everything. And they just ran down the street.
It was a mob on the corner of 9th and Liberty. Jumped a guy in his car. He was in a truck, a silver truck, pickup.
I thought something was going on. I don't know what they doing.
911 operator Scorpio, where's your emergency?
Hi, I'm on 2nd and West Liberty, and there was just like a whole group of kids running in the middle of the street, and they just ran in somebody in this man's car, started beating him up and jumping on top of his car, and they shattered his windshield. A lot of people seen it. Like it was like 50 to 60 kids. Just I don't know where they came from. And his windshield is shattered in the middle of the street and everything.
Come here. One of these little girls was attacked by this mob of kids right here. Hey, and she's bleeding pretty bad. Come here, sweetheart. Come here.
Okay, how old is she, sir?
How old are you? Oh, she's a grown woman, but she just got jumped on by a bunch of kids.
Okay.
And she's bleeding profusely from her face.
But I just saw a bunch of black kids, a whole bunch of them, and they pushed some guy, and he fell in the street. And the guy was laying in the street there, right up in between two cars on a curb.
They were taking his wallet and beating him up.
Did they have a weapon?
No, I didn't see it. They were young children.
I understand. Were they black males? We've had a group of... Okay. All right.
Females. Females.
And, okay, black male and...
There's a gang of young black children that are beating up a white man that is walking down the road.
They're at Chestnut and 4th?
Yes. Near 3rd, actually. 3rd and Chestnut.
Okay, so they're at 3rd and Chestnut?
Yes, it's a large group of kids. They pushed them over in the parking area, like a little parking lot area, but... He was just walking down the road, and they started pushing him, and then like 4 or 5 of them just started jumping on him.
1 second.
And there's a group of probably 100 kids running out in the street, throwing trash cans, and just yelling at cars and standing.
Yes, I want to report a group of about 40 kids. They just ran into my bar and smacked a customer and stole his money and knocked some stuff down. They're hitting cars and businesses.
Where's this at,
They're walking past them.
Where's this at?
They're on 5th Street walking towards Broadway. It's a big group of about 40 black kids.
I just turned down a street, and there was like 40-something black kids, and navigation told me to turn down. They threw a bottle at my car and like a brick.
Okay.
So I stepped on the gas. I didn't get out to assess the damage yet, but you could hear it. They were... there was a bottle, like a brick, something.
There's a man laying in the road.
Broadway and 5th?
Yeah.
There was a big group of kids.
Yeah, we've got a report of those kids. It looks like they were, hold on just a second. And he's still laying there?
Yeah, there's a man laying in the road.
He may have been one of those kids that we don't know.
I don't think so, though. The kids left, and he was still laying there. He just looked like he could get hit by a car in a second.
I just been knocked off my goddamn bike and I am bleeding. I need somebody down here. I'm not too far from the 4th Street line in between 6th and 4th Street.
Okay, between 6th and 4th on Broadway. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right, I'm going to get him down there for you, okay?
Harley Davidson parked on the side of the road.
Okay. All right, we're going to get him down there for you. Okay. Just stay tight. We'll get it. Was this the juveniles that did this?
I can't hardly see. I'm starting to black out.
Okay.
I was driving down Broadway, and I saw like 30 or 40 kids just jump this guy. And the car driver
There's a large gang out in that area, and they've assaulted several people.
Yeah, I got a crowd of youngsters in front of my home. It's a crowd of about anywhere from 12 to 15.
Where is this?
Causing a disruption and making all kinds of racket.
1500 West Muhammad Ali. Man, there's like 20 black people out here destroying my neighbor's car. They're tearing her car out. They're trying to kick her door.
How many?
There's about 15 to 20 kids out here trying to hurt these people.
Juveniles, stay on the line with me, okay?
But they was breaking into his car, and if my car was like they would have took me out pregnant. So they let me go, but it's like 30 kids.
Did they do something to you?
They was trying to.
I can't understand a word you're saying.
They was trying to.
Okay, what happened? Tell me exactly what happened.
I came out there at my mama's house. She lived at the Hampton place on 15 with Chestnut. There's a lot of walking. So I was walking to my car, and I seen two kids in one car that was behind me, but I had locked my door. Because I got like $1,700 on me. So I'm like, I had locked my door when my mama's house came into her story. So when I came back out, they was in cars. They had broke in they was in the cars or whatever. So then they tried to do me. And I was like, no, I got a gun. They was like, no, you don't. And they was trying to pull my gun. I just stuck out there. Why y'all doing this to me? They was like, they hit you. I'm like, no.
They were in here fighting a couple of weeks ago, and I just like to avoid that. Get too many of them in here. They get crazy.
All right, we've got them on the way, sir, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
They won't let the cowardly acts of just a few people dictate their day-to-day life.
The Overcriminalization Task Force finally focuses today on what is the most critical failing of our nation's criminal justice system: the continuing prevalence of racism.
Okay, we got the calls from 911. We heard the local reporter say it was just a few people causing trouble. Why don't we go to NPR to see what they have to say about it? The local NPR affiliate ran a story with the headline, "Anti-Racism Group Calls for Engagement, Not Police, to Address Louisville Downtown Violence." Then they go on, then the story begins. The Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression is criticizing the mayor's plan to respond to teenage violence with boosted police presence and added security cameras. Lots of discussions. Kathleen Parks, chair of the Kentucky Alliance, says the city. She said, "We won't have the liberty we deserve as citizens if there is going to be cameras everywhere." Park says the issue of teen violence stems not from problems with the city's youth, but from lack of life-affirming programs in the West End. Quote, "We need jobs. We need training for our youth. We need to resurrect community centers. We need community centers in every part of the community. We need to saturate the West End with community-centered programs." Blah, blah, blah. Need more free stuff. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. The group also demanded an end to what they call systematic racism that has left the city economically and socially divided. "We really need to address white people's bigotry," said Chris Hartman, director of Louisville's Fairness Campaign, adding that decades of disparities have blocked access for the African American community. Quote, "That is white people's work. It just has to change," he says. Quote, "Louisville has sent a strong message to the West End and communities of color that they are worth less." Blah, blah, blah. Don't kid yourself. That kind of attitude is not just NPR. This idea that all the victims are really the predators and all the predators are really the victims, this is something you can find in every newsroom in America. How else can you explain the way reporters ignore, condone, excuse, even lie about racial violence. But guess what? We don't have to wait for reporters anymore. We are the media. We are the ones telling the truth about racial violence. That's why it's important you spread this video around. Spread these podcasts around. Give them to your friends, especially your liberal buddies. Except don't give them any long, complicated causes or long, complicated explanations. Just ask them one question. Did you hear this? Anybody remember Beat Whitey Night? Anybody remember the cop who told the truth about large numbers of black people for 3 nights in a row rampaging through the Iowa State Fair? Iowa State Fair. I-O-W-A. Iowa. Beating white people in the fair, beating white people in the parking lot, beating white people in the neighborhoods around the fair. Lori Loverado got on there and said, yeah, we've gotten reports of a lot of black people beating up white people. She got fired for telling the truth about what you're about to hear. You'll hear Laurie here, too.
Well, Rachel, 2 officers were injured and 5 people were arrested last night, marking the 3rd time since East Sider night that a large group of young black people were involved in assaults in or around the fairgrounds.
We had reports that these juveniles were attempting to assault white citizens. That's all under investigation at this time. Whether this has racial overtones or not, we are looking into that.
It's a fear that police have in writing. According to one of the police reports from Sunday's assaults, there was a large fight along East 30th Street with, quote, black male and female juveniles assaulting white citizens. As Des Moines police stepped in to try and break up the 40-person deep crowd, officers were met with heavy resistance.
We continue to try to move them along and disperse, and we were getting a lot of resistance from the crowd.
At that point, 2 officers were hit in the head from behind while trying to make arrests, forcing one of them to use a stun gun to get control of the situation. Chemical sprays were also used on the crowd to get things under control.
There were several groups of juveniles together. What I was told from some officers that it was like a swarm of bees.
This was the 3rd time large groups of young black people were seen assaulting people in and around the fair. The first being at the end of the fair's East Sider night, and the second was on Friday. Police say that on Friday, a white man was severely assaulted by a group of black males and females, eventually fracturing his skull, an attack that police think may have been race-related.
In the police report, it states that a group of black males and females were out at the fair yelling out that it's Beat Whitey Night.
And with yet another incident happening on Sunday under similar circumstances on the last day of the fair, it's hard for police not to think that all of these incidents are related.
These assaults which occurred from last Friday night to last night, we do believe they are related somehow.
And there is no audio. There are no 911 calls more ironic, more filled with karmic justice than what you were about to hear from the Cincinnati Judge DeLotte. She was like a major hero in Cincinnati among the social justice warriors because as a federal judge, she was the one who discovered that, well, there's a lot of racial disparity between black people and white people and how police are arresting and stopping. And there could be one reason only for that. That's white racism. So we have to fix that. We have to change that. We have to stop police from doing that. We have to make sure the numbers match up between police stopping black people, police stopping white people. This was the first federal decision of its kind. It was used as a precedent for other decisions all over the country. Then one night, I think it was a year or 2 ago, then one night 3 fellas busted into Judge DeLotte's house. She lives in the biggest house in Cincinnati with one of the richest dudes in Cincinnati. He got rich from being a trial lawyer, class action lawsuits. She gets on the telephone. She escapes. She gets on the telephone, calls the operator, and the same judge who outlawed racial profiling, listen to the very first thing she says on these phone calls.
It is nothing short of heart-wrenching to hear this federal judge pleading with a 911 dispatcher, swinging back and forth emotionally between ordering her, call U.S. Marshals, I'm a federal judge, and then in the next breath just pleading tearfully for help for her seriously injured 79-year-old husband. Listen.
Indian Hill 911.
Yeah, 911. This is Judge Delott. We have a home invasion.
Okay, I have an officer at your house right now.
Please send more. There's 3 black men with guns at our house.
They're in your house right now?
Yes.
Okay.
My husband and the dogs are still there. There's 3 black men with guns and masks in our house. Call the United States Marshals. I'm a federal judge. Call the Marshals.
I will do that.
I worried about my husband.
I understand that, and we're doing everything we can. Can you stay there till you have contact with the officers?
Yes, I'm in somebody's house. I'm bleeding.
Delott bleeding from her feet because she ran a mile through thick woods to get to a neighbor's house. The first neighbor didn't answer the door, didn't know who this woman was, had to go to another neighbor's house to call for help.
So this is real life. This aren't people. This isn't professors in rumpled ties and nice suit jackets looking into the camera and reminding everybody that black people are relentless victims of relentless white racism all the time, everywhere. That explains everything. This is real life. This is the kind of life that when you talk about it, guarantees the black kids will get angry.